Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. Today I want to take a bit of revisit of the Blender, like a kind of like a deja vu. So I remember I used Blender almost around 8 years ago. It might be longer than that, but it was Blender 2.5, 2.51, and now I'm actually using Blender 2.81. Some of you probably are using Blender 2.80, which is the official release of Blender. If I actually see the file, see the splash screen, I'm using 2.8 alpha. So alpha might still have bugs, but it also has some useful features. But if you open Blender for the first time, this normally this is what you get. You are in the layout mode. This is what you get. You have a 3D view, and you have a box over here, and there's usually a camera, I think, and there's also a light. So that's the default. And if you are either beginners in 3D or perhaps you are like a pro, you came from a different 3D package, but so you have different kind of experience. But don't be afraid, because Blender can help you to do animations, and you can do modeling. You can actually do 2D animations as well with grease pencil. So there's a lot. There's a lot in Blender. You can even do compositing, and yeah. My camera is over here. That's why I keep looking to the right, to the left. But yeah. Anyway, so normally this is what you get, and you can see the grid when you first start open Blender. The grid might don't have this blue line because I actually turn it on before. The blue line represents the Z-axis. If you are totally new to 3D, don't be afraid of the XYZ axis. You will hear that a lot. There's also this floor, the grid that represents the floor, and you can change the setting here. Don't worry about all that for now. Just look at the 3D view. And if you have a mouse with 3 mouse buttons, normally that's what you use for 3D. With middle mouse button and drag, you can kind of orbit around the scene like this. Look at this guy, not the head. Maybe I'll make my head a bit smaller so it's not too distracting. Or just keep it like that. So middle mouse button is help you to orbit. If you hold shift and drag, you can kind of pan around it. See if you can kind of move yourself around to see the cube. And then if you use the scroll, it's actually for zoom in and zoom out. If you actually don't have three mouse buttons, you can use also the trackpad on a Mac. Actually, that works really well as well. So 2-finger pinch in and out, that's for zoom, and then 2-finger pan for orbit, and then shift and 2-finger to pan around. So that can come in handy if you forgot your mouse or something and you want to show to other people about Blender. Okay, so normally also if you open Blender for the first time, you might actually see a timeline. A timeline is usually looking something like this. So this is for animations. You can see the normal, the playback, and what is this called? Kind of like a tick to represent the time where you're in, which frame. Let me go. So normally it starts at frame 1 and at frame 250. So if you want to see a little bit of animations, you can do that. Let's make a keyframe of this box. So just now I just refilled this. This is not tool setting. This is a property panel, I believe. So normally the way I remember it, I just remember hotkey N and T. So N and T will refill. This is actually the default tool panels in the 3D view. And then this is the panel for properties, and it's got a lot of things, but normally you have items, and items give you the information about the locations, the position of the what I'm selecting, the cube, and rotations and scale. So you can scale this cube in the X, Y, Z. You can see the dimensions as well, but it's a local scale value. You can select all of them and make them back to 111, or actually you can try moving this thing around using the numbers, but normally in Blender you like to use hotkeys. G or grab is to select whatever you're selecting, you grab it and move it around. You can see the position is changing here as well. And then you have R, you can rotate it based on your view at the moment. You can also RR for local rotations. You have more freedom. Or let's reset everything, Option R. Or you can use RX, for example, to rotate only in X-axis, RY only in Y-axis, RZ. Don't forget you also have RRX, actually RXX, to rotate it in the local X-axis, RYY, rotate it in local Y-axis. You will hear that a lot, don't worry. But normally you care a lot about locations, and you grab it using G, rotate using R, scale using S. SX, for example, SX will scale it in the X-axis normally, but I'm scaling it in 2 axes, it seems. Let's reset everything. Select the box, Option G, Option R, Option S. I'm resetting the cube. Let's do the SX, so it's scaling it in X-axis, and then SY, scaling it in Y-axis, and then SZ. So the blue line annoys me a little bit, so I will just get rid of it. So that's the axis. Normally you just only see the green and red. Okay, so let's look at the cube. Normally, what else is important? Oh yeah, animations. Let's say you want to animate the cube from animated in the X-axis. You can grab it, or you can use this. It's totally up to you. Translate it. Maybe use this first. You grab it. You drag this number, and it's moving it in the -X directions. And then to keyframe it, you hit an I over here or over here. If you hit it, if you tap I here, is you keyframe it right away into this translate XYZ axis. And now you can see keyframe down there. And then if you move maybe 100 frames, and then move the box in X positive axis, and then you hit I, now you have animations of the cube. You can play back and you can kind of watch the cube. Yeah, which is pretty cool. It seems to have ease in and ease out. Yes, it is actually have ease in and ease out. If you open the graph editor, by default, I will leave Blender. If you keyframe it, see, it's not linear. It has the ease in and ease out, but you can change the key interpolations if you like. Interpolations to linear. Now it's more linear from 2 position. So animations, of course, at the very basic is the interpolations between 2 value. So between this value and this value, the computer does this for you automatically. That's the basic idea, but of course you have like hundreds and thousands of these controls and keyframes at some point. So that's really the basic. Oh yeah, I haven't explained this outliner. By default, you probably didn't see this this collection. Well, we have scene collections and all the objects in the scenes being displayed here, and you can turn it on and off. You just basically need to know there's something called collections. That's kind of way you for you to organize things in Blender. I think I can make my head a little bit smaller or bigger. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. So that's this thing. What is this thing? Oh, that's the viewer. Oh, that's the empty. Okay, don't worry about that. But you can see in the scene we have the cube. We can select it over here. We have the camera. Maybe we have a sunlight. So you can select it here in the 3D view or select it here. And then what else? You have a lot of things here. Okay, this is how you switch between perspective, orthographic or perspective. Normally, let's say you want to switch to the front. Oh, this is the front. I see. You can click on this guy and kind of switch between the front and the back. And then, so there's this XYZ axis as well here. You can look at it from the top, which is the Z axis. You can actually move around like that. The hotkey for it is, I keep forgetting, but is it options or? Yeah, it's actually options and middle mouse button drag. That's to switch between axes, but you can, if you don't need to remember the hotkey for now. But this is how you switch between perspective and orthographic. Orthographic, if you kind of have really long lens and look at the object more like flat, useful for CAD. This is to switch between, you go inside the camera. So now we are actually inside the camera where you're going to be rendering your 3D scenes. Just now I just locked camera, so I can move the camera while keeping the camera looking at what I want to be rendering. If you turn that off and move around, you're gonna exit the camera. But this is one of the toggle. This one, oh yeah, this is kind of for panning. You use a single mouse button. Normally you use middle mouse, but if you want to use single mouse button, you can do that. And this is the zoom. Normally, if you are using like a stylus, this become really handy. Otherwise, you just hide it. And then what else we have? This is kind of object type visibility, on and off. You can turn on and off the mesh. Where's our cube? Oh yeah, make the cube bigger. Yep. Yeah, still moving between A and B. You can change the timing. You can even keyframe the scale and everything, of course. So if you want to scale, you want to scale while it's moving, just keyframe the scale and then keyframe here, make it bigger. Okay, yep. Yeah, that's the outliner. Basically, you can tell that each panel, where at the bottom, of course, we have, what is this? Oops. What is this? I just turn on light bulbs. So we have this panel called, there's a name for it. If you hover over it, this is timeline. This is of course, the 3D view part. This is the outliner. This is the property panel. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about property panel. So with property panel, you have the box and you have a lot of things here, like things like what you want to render this scene as, EV or cycles. This is the dimension of if you want to render out your scene later. This is the compositing options. More options about the scene. This is the world. This is something about the cube, of course. The cube has properties, location, rotation, scale. Don't worry about everything else, but you can display the name, for example, display the axis. You can change the wireframe. You can apply modifier. This is a cool one. Modifier. Blender comes with a lot of cool modifier. Like you can add bevel. You can actually add subdivision surface. You can, for example, like subdivide it with a simple and then subdivide it again. Smooth it. You can change the setting. Modifier is like kind of alive. You can always change the setting anytime you like, and then delete it if you don't want. And you can also change the stack. You can remesh, solidify. So there's a lot. Wireframe, for example. That's regarding modifier. This one, let's just say cube, context particle. Oh, this is for the particles. if you add particles for this, don't worry about that. For if you're a beginner, object constraint, don't need to worry. Cube, vertex group, also the material is important. This is important. So if you can add a material to this cube, this box, and then give it a color. If you don't see the color because you are in the different viewport, so now you switch to this guy over here. This is the wireframe viewport. It's really cool to see my head in wireframe like that. This is the standard viewport shading. There is this shading. Of course, it should display the color, the material of these objects. Now my head is a bit laggy. Don't worry about that. But you can switch to kind of like rendered view. This is EV rendering. It's more realistic. But Blender actually Blender 2.8 comes with the EV rendering and also cycles rendering. And there's also workbench rendering, which is I haven't used actually, but cycles. This is like ray trace rendering. Everything is slow. It's gonna make my computer really hot, but you can go back. Wow, all right. It crashes. Should I stop here or just continue? Whoa, it crashes. It's okay. I reopen Blender. You can see now it has camera, it has cube and lights, and you can switch between different type of 3D viewport. But I'll reopen my head. So yeah, now we are back. So yeah, you can hide this thing on and off. If you want to go advanced really quick, maybe it's not a good idea. I mean, but if you control space, it will maximize your scene. I recommend you time to time to use control space if you are more advanced. For now, don't do that. Control option spacebar is actually more dangerous. It hides everything. Control option spacebar. Don't do that. For now, you just worry about the tool over here. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about this tool up here. The tool, there's a select tool. Select, if you hold your mouse button over here, there's a select by arrow, select by box, select by circle, select by lasso. There's this 3D cursor. Many people hate 3D cursor, but it's actually very useful. Wherever you have a 3D cursor, and then if you shift A, that's the hotkey for add, or so put the 3D cursor and then you go to add a mesh, for example, the monkey head. So this is Suzanne, the monkey head. Name is Suzanne. And you know it because if you select this object, it's called Suzanne. If you can shift D to duplicate Suzanne, now you have 3D Suzanne. Hello Suzanne. Hello. So yeah, you can animate Suzanne like that. If you are in the 3D cursor mode, whenever you click, it becomes where you place the 3D cursor, but normally you want to be in this mode all the time. Select mode. Hi Suzanne A, Suzanne B, and Suzanne C. You can give it different color. The next one is really just the translate, rotate, scale. To be honest, I hardly ever use this. I just use G, grab, rotate, R, RR, and then S for scaling. So I'll make this Suzanne small. This is medium Suzanne and big Suzanne. How are you there, big Suzanne? I'm good, thanks. All right. Over here we have annotations, which is also tools that I hardly use. I mean, oh, I have the playback on. That's why. The playback was running before, so that's why the computer is a bit laggy. But you can see the annotations is actually, this is actually kind of like a grease pencil in the old Blender. You can have different annotations on different keyframe, very, very useful. This is this tool over here, but normally I use hotkey D. You can delete it if you don't want. On a Mac, these annotations, on the Mac, I don't know why I cannot change the thickness, I don't know why. You can have onion skin even, but don't worry, delete. Annotation if you want to draw on the 3D scenes basically. it's okay. Blender is not normally Blender 2.81 alpha, and I'm using this OSC head thing. All right, let's back. We have measure, I hardly use, and we have box cutter. Box cutter is actually an add-on. Blender is actually very powerful. It comes if you buy a lot of add-on or you add free add-ons. This one I purchased. This is one of the powerful add-on, but there's a lot of add-on, really cool add-on in Blender. Box cutter, of course, this is I highly recommend this. If you turn this on and then you start working, you can start cutting the box like that. It seems really simple, but this is actually super powerful add-on. I actually want, maybe I should do like a demo of this box cutter again using the 3D head. Why not? Yeah, I don't hit undo, it's gonna crash. All right, so yeah, so far you kind of getting used. You now knows like what Blender can do. So far, maybe there's also this mode up here. Actually, there's view, file, new. There's a general 2D animation, sculpting, VFX. This is like 5 big things that you can do in Blender. But normally for beginners, you can stay in this layout. You can start splitting the layout, but I think that's also for advanced user. Maybe not. I don't recommend you to split the layout panel for now. But basically, if you want, you can do that. You split it by dragging the corner like this, and then you kind of fuse the panel together just by dragging it in the directions. But don't worry about that. Just letting you know you have that, and you have this menu as well. But I hardly use the menu as well. Like I said, normally I just Shift A, create a cube, and then Shift A, create whatever, a donut, torus. And you can see it's keep pointing there because the 3D cursor is over there. But you can reset the position of 3D cursor just in case you didn't know. 3D cursor, locations, and rotations, zero it out. There's also hotkey for that. There's a lot of things in Blender basically. There's even option F3. I like F3. F3 is like this command line options. You can reset 3D cursor like this, I believe. No, cursor, snap cursor to the world origin. Yeah. I think one more thing that I haven't talked about is this thing up here, modeling, sculpting. From 3D layout, you can switch to modeling layout. Okay, that's the head. You can skip. You can jump into the sculpting. Sculpting is really cool. Of course, you can start sculpting, but let's go back to layout. Let's select the head first and then maybe switch to sculpting. And now I can start sculpting my head. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, you can see I'm actually sculpting the head in the weird kind of way. Don't worry about that. You have UV editing. Yep. You have texture painting. UV editing is you create UV before you can start texture painting, I thought. But yeah, you have like a preset and that you can work on up here. Layout, modeling, sculpting, UV editing, sculpting, UV editing, texture painting. If you want to start painting, it will say no, you cannot because you don't have material and you don't have texture for it. You create a new texture and now you can start painting. You have shading, different shading modes. If you start to work with the shading and the PBR material, and then you have animation and rendering, compositing, etc., etc. Scripting, yep. Rendering and compositing is if you hit the render button over here, you render the 3D scenes based on the camera, and then now you can work inside compositing using nodes. So that's all possible in Blender. So yeah, let's get my head back. So that's another look at Blender. In the nutshell, Blender, you can use it for animation. At some point, maybe like tomorrow or something, I will talk about easy rigging method. Like if you start with a cube and then you go to edit mode and then you kind of you go to vertex mode and then you merge the vertices. So I just make this branch. This is I like to teach Blender like this. You create a scene, skin. You skin the polygon edge, and then you create a timeline. And with this, you can add a armature or the bones. You create armature, and then now with this armature, you have ability to pose this guy very quickly. So that's always useful. Turn on auto IK and hide this. So you can post this in the IK way. So select all the bones, keyframe this lock rod scale, and then move this guy again. Oh, actually, maybe I have playback running, but I suppose I can keyframe this lock rod scale. Maybe I have something running in the background. Blender doesn't like that. Okay. So now we have animate this little twig branch. Maybe I'll do that for proper character. But this head also is something that you can do in Blender. This is all real time. I'm using this iPad Pro. It's looking at my face and it's tracking my head and it's running all these blend shapes. It's transferring all the face animation data into Blender. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah, but I found this to be interesting. Next time maybe I try a different character, or maybe give my head a different, put some head or hair or maybe AirPods. But anyway, thanks again for tuning in. This is just another Dejavu quick Blender tutorial, introduction to Blender 2.8 in a casual way. But give it a try yourself and let me know if you have any question. Thanks again for tuning in, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.